Hi, in this video I want to explain all about how you can accept payments from your RightBooth users in your RightBooth events. Now this process works through Stripe, so I've integrated the Stripe online payment processing service into RightBooth, and it allows you to collect money from your users to use your events. Now I'm not going to explain how to set up Stripe. So I've made a PDF document that explains the whole process of setting up your Stripe account. It's a free service. You just enter your details and you set up API keys that can be used in RightBooth. Now, once you've set up your account, you've got the options then of using two types of payment methods in RightBooth. The first one is to pay by mobile phone. So you can get your users to scan a QR code that appears on screen when they're expected to pay. And then at that point, they can enter their details on the phone, pay for it, that gets through to Stripe, and then that's accepted by RightBooth, and then they can use the event. The other option is to use a payment card reader, which you can obtain from Stripe through the Stripe account once you're registered. I've got one here. This is the Stripe Terminal S710. It's a great device. It's wireless, it's battery powered, and it connects through to the Stripe account and lets users pay by tapping their credit or debit cards on this thing. Now, obviously it's battery powered and it's portable. You might want to lock this in place on your booth. So one way to do that is to also purchase through the shop a Stripe dock. So what you can do here is you can connect these two devices together. They get locked in. You can then power it, so this becomes powered off the mains. And then you can use these connectors here. You can fasten this to, say, the wall or to your booth, and then this cannot be stolen. So that's quite a nice combination. The other thing you can buy through the Stripe shop is a test card. So you can use this to make test payments on the terminal. So that doesn't incur any costs once you're testing the system. So I think that's quite a useful thing to have. So as I say, I'm not going to explain the process of setting up Stripe, but what I will concentrate on now is how to use RightBooth. So the first thing you need to do is, once you've got all the details from your Stripe account, you need to enter them into the settings in RightBooth. So let's have a look at that. Go into settings. You'll see a new tab, payments. So let's go in here. And what you're expected to enter here are the live restricted API key, the test restricted API key, and then if you're going to be using a card reader, you need to enter a live reader ID and a test reader ID. So these four items need to come from your Stripe account. And as I say, that's explained in the PDF document. You also need to enter a default currency. In my example, I've put GBP, which stands for Great British Pounds. There are lots of other three-letter acronyms you can use here for different currencies. There's a full list in the document that I've provided, but I'll just quickly show you some. This is the list. So for instance, if you're in the USA, you could put USD in there for United States dollar. The other things you can do here is enter a test amount, which you can use for testing the whole process, the payment process, in this panel here. So I've put 1.00, so £1. You can also enter a default wait time for users to pay, which is 180 seconds by default. You can increase that if you wish. What that means is you're giving your users 3 minutes in this case to pay. If they haven't paid within 3 minutes, then it will time out. So Here we can use test mode and we can try paying. Now, I'm not going to bother doing that here. I'm going to do this in the event. So just watch what happens when I try this in the event. So what I'm going to do to begin with is I'm going to use mobile phone payments. I'm going to stay in test mode and I'm going to add payments into my event. So let's do that. This event that I've loaded here is a standard photo capture event. If I look in the designer, you can see that it's set to take just one photo. Let's have a quick look at the design. We have a start screen, which is this one. We have a get ready screen, and I've added a button here which you have to touch to take the photo, and I'll explain why that's there soon. It then moves on to the countdown screen, which is a 3-second. By the way, I'm using a webcam here to take the photo. It then takes the photo and shows the user the photo, and then there's the thank you screen, and then it takes you back to the start screen. So as it stands at the moment, this is a standard photo capture event with no payments in it. So let's add payment. We come out of this and go into the designer, and you'll see that there is a new tab, payments. So let's go into here. Now, what you can do in your event is you can choose to force the user to have to pay to use the event. So let's tick that. I'm going to set a price that they have to pay to use the event. I could also put a description in here which will tell them and prompt them on screen. I'm going to leave it blank, which means there will be a default description appearing. So let's try that now. So click OK. I'm going to start playing the event and let's watch what happens. So we're at the start screen. Somebody comes up to the system and touches the screen to start. So let's just touch the screen. Now, RightBooth shows a payments screen, and as you can see, there's a 3-minute countdown going on, and there's a QR code that's been generated by RightBooth. So it's asking the user to scan the QR code. Let's give it a go. Switch my phone on. Get the camera, and I'm going to scan the QR code and watch what happens. So RightBooth has interacted with Stripe. It's asking for payment and I can use my phone to pay. So I'm going to enter details in here. Now I put in my email address. I choose card payment. Now I can use the test card code number, which is 42424242. It's explained in the PDF document. So I'm just going to fill in the details here. So these are test details. I'm going to put an expiry date. I'm just going to make one up in the future, 12/26, and I'm going to put a CVC number, which is 123. I'm going to put my name, which is N. Pierce. So, as you can see there, those are the details I've added. I'm now going to pay, and watch what happens when I select pay. As you can see, the payment's gone through and RightBooth has shown payment successful. And watch what's happened. So the phone is showing a payment success, but also RightBooth has now moved on to the Get Ready screen. And this is the reason why there's this button here. Because if I hadn't have put a button here, then it would have carried straight on and it might have caused the user to miss the photo opportunity. So now I can take the photo. I've paid and I just need to touch the button to take the photo. So let's do that. Set up. Okay, so that's the whole process. It was simply enabling pay to use with a mobile phone. Now I'm going to repeat that process, but this time I'm going to use the payment card reader. So escape out of this, into settings, payments, and switch to card reader. I'm going to run the event again. So walk up to the device, touch, actually, so let me just get the reader so you can see what happens. Here's the reader waiting. It could be on the wall at the side of the booth, but I'm just holding it up so you can see what happens here. I'm going to touch the screen. Let's touch the screen. Now, notice that the reader has been set into payment mode and RightBooth is showing the payment screen. So now the user has got 3 minutes in which to tap to pay for using the event. Now this is where I can use my test card. I got this from Stripe, as I said. Here we go. So let me pay with my test card. And as you can see, we've got a successful payment and RightBooth now allows me to use the event. So I can take another photo. So it takes us through and then it takes us back to the start screen. So those are the 2 payment methods. Let's have a look at some of the other options. Back into the designer, payments. So instead of pay to use event, I could use pay to print, for instance. So if my event has got an option to print the photo, I could ask for payment at that point. So let's edit the event so that I've got printing involved. Go into the designer, event structure, print photos, ask the user. So just to go back here, so now we can use the event for free, but we'll be asked to pay to print. Let's have a quick look in the editor. We've got a photo options screen now, and we've got the option to print on there. So let's watch what happens this time. I'll stay with the card reader. So here's the card reader. Let's run the event. Touch the screen. Right, I can take a photo straight away, so I'll take the photo. Photo is taken. It shows me the photo, takes me onto the photo options screen, and now I can choose to print that. So watch what happens when I touch print. That's the point where I have to pay. So I'm going to pay with my card. Now watch, RightBooth will try and print this, but I don't have a printer connected, so there'll be an error here, but you can see it's printing. And then it thanks and takes me back to the start screen. So you can introduce the payment somewhere in the workflow. Let's have another look at some of the options. We can pay to email, so you might want to only allow them to get their emails if they pay. So videos and photos have to be paid for to get them emailed, or to send by SMS, or to be sent by WhatsApp. Now, one of my users asked, is there a way in which you can set up an event so that they have to pay before they even start and they don't want them to touch the screen, so it's a non-interactive experience? Well, yes, you can. So let's go back to pay to use event, and this time I'm going to tick start with the payment screen. So I'll just tick that. Now, what I want to do is remove any user interaction in this process. So I can edit the event. I'm going to remove the start screen. I'm going to go into the editor. I now have a get ready screen to begin with, but I'm going to remove this take photo option here. So I can do that by removing it here. And I'll set a timeout on this to be 3 seconds. So let's see what happens this time when I play the event. Here's my reader. As soon as I play the event, watch what happens. So RightBooth has set up a payment request right at the start of the event. Now this is going to sit here until somebody pays, and it will sit here for about 23 hours before it resets and sets up another payment. That's just to allow Stripe not to time out. So essentially this is a permanent payment screen. So what I will do is pay and watch what happens. Now I don't touch the screen at all. It moves straight onto the Get Ready screen. I can take a photo. Now, when I go back to after the thank you screen, oh sorry, I've left the print option in. Let me just take that out. I'm just going to escape into the designer, event structure, print photos, turn off printing. Okay, let's run that again. So this is a totally non-interactive experience. Start again, play the event. We start at the payment screen. I will pay. Payment is successful. RightBooth now moves on to the Get Ready screen. I'm not touching the screen. Let's take a photo. Shows me the photo, thanks the user, and then it takes me back to the beginning, and again it sets up another payment request. So the next user can now come along and pay. And it's the same process, just repeating. So this is the second use. So this is quite useful if you want a totally non-interactive experience. So everything I've shown you so far is using test payments. So there's been no transactions whatsoever. It's cost nothing. Once you're happy with this whole process and you want to start actually charging people, go into settings, payments, and untick test mode. Now, when you play the event, users will have to pay real money. So if they pay with their mobile phone, money will be taken from whatever account they use and will go into your Stripe account. If they pay by scanning on here, they'll have to use a credit card or a debit card that's valid. So that's where the difference is. You can switch between test mode and what's called live mode. So I hope you can see that this is a very flexible solution. It gives you lots of flexibility within your event designs. It's also a very robust and reliable system. Any questions, just put it on the Facebook user group or email me at support@rightbooth.com, and thanks for watching.